Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the May 29th, 2024 meeting of the North Attleboro Town Council. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're missing a few tonight. Right now, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. First item of business is the approval of the minutes of May 13th, 2024.
I make a motion to approve Town Council minutes of May 13th, 2024.
Second. Got a motion for Mr. Simmons, second for Mr. Costello. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the minutes say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. Oh, sorry, Darius?
Yep.
One abstention?
Yep.
That motion passes 6-0-1. All right, next up, Town Councilor Community Announcements. I have a few today. Mr. Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Martin School fundraiser for North Attleboro's first wheelchair accessible playground at bricksrus.com. You can donate any amount. If you donate $50, you can get a brick engraved, custom engraved, and become part of the history of Martin School.
Thank you. Any other councilors? I got a couple. First off, maybe I only have one actually. On Sunday, June 2nd, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. is Petty Field Day. It's North Attleboro Travel Softball's annual celebration and its major fundraiser. There are going to be competitive events for all the girls, raffles and prizes. By a lot of the prizes actually donated by the great businesses of North Attleboro. I'd encourage folks to stop by on Sunday to support these girls and this great youth sports organization over at Petty Field. Hope to see you guys there. Anything else, councilors? Yep. All right, let's move on to the next item in the agenda. We have Town Manager Report. Mr. Board.
Council President, member of the council, a couple items for you this evening. Webster Mill, we're still re-engaging right now with the DEP and the Commonwealth to begin the discussion with the owners of Webster Mill. Please follow us on the webpage to see current facts. We're still monitoring that site up there with the cover on it and in discussions with the current property owners as well. The LAPC met today, so that was done, and I think the Council Vice President will probably report out on that, right? An update on our disaster relief. I would encourage all town members, residents, businesses that were impacted by the flooding in September to please go to the FEMA website or go to the location that's been established in Attleboro to meet with the FEMA rep to make a claim. If you had damage during the flooding in September, now is the time to make your claim. Follow this link. Go to the town's website. We've put out a lot of information on social media in every place that we can. I know I've talked about it today on North TV as well. But please go there and file your claim. This is for individual and business claims for the September flooding. FEMA's here. The president signed off on that. I want to thank the governor for not letting that one go. But I do have, the public assistance was denied, right? So that has been now denied twice. But the good news, I had a discussion with Rep. Scanlon today. It looks like they're going to open up the original $5 million that they earmarked and make that available to the municipalities. So we'll be working through that and making sure that we submit our claims for the public aspect of this as well. So we'll continue to monitor that and bring that forward. Some community events and communication. Great memorial. Thank you all for participating. Thank you all for taking a part. Council Vice President, thank you for your remarks. Thanks to all the elected folks that came there and shared. It was really a great day of remembrance. We also did a couple of media engagements, right? We did an updated podcast. We dropped our third podcast. We have a fourth one that's ready to go and drop. So we're slowly building a following on this. So we're trying to communicate. But we did a Memorial Day one where we talked about Memorial Day and what it means to veterans using veteran employees that we had. So good to go on that one. The Paint North Attleboro Beautiful, that is this weekend, and I want to make an announcement for that. The Cultural Council is sponsoring that. They've been working very hard on doing it. It was a huge success last year. I got to be a judge, and they're doing it again this year. You've got the timeline here. They've expanded it. Really looking forward to seeing it. Maybe we'll be able to display some of the winners in Town Hall. Would love to do that as well. So if you have the opportunity, come by this weekend. Some very talented folks taking part in that, and love to see the artwork, and thanks to the Cultural Council for all the work that they're doing on that. Farmers Market begins June 5th, right? So we're excited about that, and thanks to all the folks that helped put that on. Not an easy task for sure, but this will be the third year. So it's a sustained item that we've had. Glad to support it. Glad to see it back here in North Attleboro. Some operational economic development stuff. Had the opportunity to hold a regional discussion with all of our local municipalities around us. We had over 40 people attend today, including Congressman Auchincloss, right, and Rep. Scanlon, who came out. We talked with a number of private and public health organizations about how we might entertain and look and potentially collaborate using the opioid settlement funds. So we're on tap to receive opioid settlement funds, and we're continuing to receive some of those now. But we wanted to hear the ideas of what other communities were thinking and what they might be able to, and look for opportunities to either regionalize or collaborate with select partners and expanding some of these things and put these funds to good use. I introduced the concept of left of bang, right? So what we're talking about is if you take an overdose, that's the event, that's the bang. How do we get left of that and help prevent that and make an impact? We have a number of activities, support mechanisms, systems already in place for dealing with overdose. And our police officers that are here with us this evening will tell you that they have Narcan, right? We have Narcan in a number of places, but that's after an overdose. What I asked everybody in this group was help us focus on reducing this. And we had a great, it's recorded. We're going to send out all the notes, and I'll be happy to report that and share this with the council as we formulate how we're going to maneuver and use the opioid settlement funds. Just a reminder, we are using one already through the William James College interface service for mental health. And what really came out of today's session was there is a direct link to mental health and addiction in the opioid crisis. So this is absolutely a good program that we're doing, and we got a good start. The high school building committee met. Thought it was pretty good. I had to depart early, so maybe folks will be able to cover that and appreciate that. And I know there was a community forum after that. Water restrictions are in place right now. Please check out the website with DPW and the link provided below. That's going out. We still need to, take precautions with our water resources, right? North Washington, when we get to the next part of the downtown improvement concept and the parking lot, I'm going to show you a slide of some work that's going on. And if you've already driven by Park Street, you can see some of the stuff that's already happened. Some great work, some great updates happening down there. I attached into your town manager a rodent report of really an update of the strategy that we're undertaking and everything that we have. We reached out to a number of communities, and Councilor Donovan, thank you for reaching out to Somerville. That was very helpful. Kind of confirmed a lot of stuff that we were already doing. But again, you provided us a link that there's only one known town in the Northern Hemisphere that is rodent-free, and that's Alberta, Canada, right? And they had some very good information about how they were doing this. We're incorporating a lot of that, right? And we're looking forward to bringing you back the results of the strategy that we're implementing. And thanks to Councilor Gould, too, for the Smart Box. We've been looking at that, and we're going to be rolling that into our strategy, so we do have some progress on that as well. Did you ever find out what adult side was? No, neither did I. So Bristol County is going to start their mosquito, and they're taking requests. I think this is if you have an issue with the spraying, reach out to them. This is something the town pays for as a part of the cherry sheet every year. It's on the backside, so please take a look at that. A plug for the parks, sign up. recreation opportunities out there, please take advantage of that, right? You have two financial transfers, one of $247, one of $200 that are in your books. Those are well within the $20,000. That was maybe a Freudian slip. A $20,000 limit that's established for me, so please see those. You'll have reappointments and confirmations tonight. We've got our new police officers here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Captain Roy this evening to introduce you our newest police officers. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So we got 7 brand-new police officers. They graduated from the MPTC's Boylston Academy on May 3rd. On Monday the 6th, they began their field training period. That's going to last for 3 to 4 months, during which time they ride along with veteran officers, most of which are certified as field training officers. And we would hope to have them out on solo patrol the end of August, early September. So just a couple words about each of them. Jacob Beater, he's 23 years old, from Mendon, Mass. He was the captain of his high school baseball team. He graduated from Nichols College in 2023 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, specializing in terrorism studies. He also played college baseball at Nichols. And prior to joining us, Jacob worked as a carpenter, and he was with the Webster Police Department's traffic unit. Megan Croto.
Can you, when you're,
Yes, stand up.
who was the first one? Was that was Jacob? Thank you.
When I call you,
Stand up or raise your hand.
stand up.
It's okay.
Megan, she's 24, is from Attleboro, Mass., 2022 graduate of Framingham State with a bachelor's degree in criminology. She was a 4-year field hockey player in college, and prior to joining us, she worked in the food service, and she was an assistant teacher at a preschool, and she has some experience with sign language. Thank you, Megan. Stephen Curran, 27, lives in Holbrook, Mass. He graduated from Wentworth in 2018 with a bachelor's in construction management. Before joining us, he had been working part-time as an EMT for Brewster, and he worked full-time as a construction superintendent, I believe, in Boston, right? All righty. Zenelson. Zenelson is 26. He immigrated to the U.S. from Cape Verde as a 7-year-old. He now lives in town. He is currently in the Army National Guard. His unit was activated, and he deployed all over the Middle East from May of 22 till May of 23. Prior to joining us, he worked for Amazon as well as in food service. He speaks Cape Verdean, and except for right now, I don't think I've ever seen Zen without a smile on his face.
He's smiling now.
Got him.
Thank you, Zen. Timothy Delano. Tim is 28. He lives in Attleboro. He graduated from Franklin Pierce in 2018 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He went to Mansfield High School. He's captain of the hockey team there, and at Franklin Pierce, he was a captain of the football team. As if the academy wasn't stressful enough, a couple months into it, he and his wife had a new child, so that added to it. Before joining us, Tim worked for the Foxborough DPW and later the Walpole DPW as a heavy equipment operator. Thank you, Tim. Daniel Kreitler. Daniel's 34. He was originally from Massachusetts, but he grew up in Pennsylvania. He moved back to town in 2018, lives here with his wife and child. He attended Pennsylvania Western University, is still working towards his degree. He has previous experience as a reserve officer in Eastham and Orleans, Mass. And prior to joining us, Daniel had been working as a project manager for a construction company. Thank you, Daniel. And lastly, Ryan Murphy. Ryan's 24. He's from Walpole. He graduated from Westfield in 2022 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He also played baseball in college. Prior to joining us, he was a laborer with an HVAC company, and he comes from a family of many police officers. In fact, his father was the deputy superintendent with the Brookline Police Department. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Captain Roy, and welcome to North Attleboro Police Department, and we look forward to following your careers over the years ahead. Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, Council President, members of the council, the last part of it is we do have some job openings here as well, and that concludes my town manager's report that is subject to any of your questions.
Yeah, thank you, Town Manager Borg. Will you, do you post your town manager reports to the
Yes.
website?
Yes.
Including the
They're under actually the town council side.
Town website? Okay, excellent, thank you. People want to take a closer look at that report. Questions for Town Manager Borg, comments? I had one thing, not for you so much. I just wanted to thank, actually, John for standing in for me at the Memorial Day, remembrance, and giving those remarks. And I just wanted to let the public know I regret that I couldn't be there. I just had kids. Welcome. You'll be going through it soon enough. A softball tournament in Taunton and a basketball tournament in Wellesley and a few other things in between. So again, I appreciate your willingness to stand in for me.
Happy to do it.
That's all I had. So let's move on. The next item, which would be resident and community comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the council this evening? Yes, please step forward. Name, street, if you don't mind.
Yes, I'm Laura Wagner. I live on 140 Commonwealth Ave, Unit 4. I'm here tonight. I thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to speak to you in support of the stretch code, which is on the agenda this evening. I ask for your support in keeping it in place here in North Attleboro. For some people, codes, ordinances, policies are interpreted as intrusions on their personal freedoms. Individual people don't like restrictions, but individuals too often don't think about how their actions impact the larger community. Individual actions often impact the larger community with sometimes harmful results. It's the job of local government to both prevent harm and protect the well-being and future of our community. Examples of this are that a person can't just dump used motor oil in their backyard or into local waterways. Homeowners and builders can't insulate building with asbestos, and no one can use lead paint in new construction or additions. There was a time when all of this was okay. But then people understood the detrimental impact of disposing hazardous waste improperly and building with toxic materials, and it was banned. We, the residents of this community, are still paying for the decisions made by our predecessors in dealing with brownfields or toxic chemicals in our drinking water. The point of what I'm saying is when you're stuck in a hole and you're trying to get out, the first thing you do is stop digging. The purpose of the stretch code is to require that new construction and substantial renovations not only meet standards, but the needs of the future as well. Construction that is efficient and built to meet current challenges as well as future demands just makes sense. As councilors, you are stewards of this community. It makes no sense to allow builders to construct buildings with cheap materials that result in higher energy demands and expenses and will most definitely be a problem in the near future. Building codes will continue to demand greater efficiency. There will be no market for obsolete, energy-inefficient buildings and homes. I would argue that there's already no demand for outdated, inefficient buildings and homes. Cities and towns with high inventory of outdated, inefficient construction have a lot of empty buildings and a really lousy tax base. For me, I understand the challenges we face are because of the climate crisis. I know what we are now facing will only get worse. Responsible leaders prepare a community for what's to come. Focusing solely on the here and now is just not responsible. I know that some people will deny that anything is happening to our climate right now and will dismiss the mountain of data that keeps me awake at night worrying about the world my grandchildren are going to inherit. I don't know where all of you are on this issue, but as elected officials, there is one data set that would be unconscionable to ignore. It's what's happening in the insurance industry. Its impact on property and the subsequent impact on tax revenue. Recently, on the Daily podcast, there was an episode titled The Possible Collapse of the U.S. Home Insurance System, which came out on May 15th. A couple of statements from that podcast stood out to me, which I quote now. And in fact, it turns out that in 18 states last year, homeowner insurance markets lost money. A lot of the Midwest, a lot of the Southeast. In fact, if you think of a map of the country, there was no state between Pennsylvania and the Dakotas that didn't lose money on homeowners insurance last year. So just huge parts of the middle of the U.S. have become unprofitable to homeowners insurance, end quote. Due to this unprofitability, many insurance companies have pulled out of states such as Florida, which leaves homeowners in big trouble. I can tell you that my condominium complex right here in North Attleboro, the insurance company that covered our complex dropped us, and only one insurance company was willing to take up that policy at double the rate we were paying. If we lose them, I don't know what happens next. No insurance means no mortgage. The number of catastrophic storms continue to grow, and this year's hurricane season may be the worst ever. The two largest contributors to our carbon footprint are transportation and buildings. The possibility that this governing body might even consider reducing energy efficiency requirements on buildings is alarming to me. It would move our community in completely the wrong direction. I ask that you please keep this building stretch code in place, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the council? Mr. Donahue. Have a good evening, gentlemen and ladies.
No, that's okay. I should not have clear room. John Donahue, Precinct 7, member of the Charter Review Committee. I come here today to speak to you because of what was said at the last council meeting, and I thought that I would try to clarify the process that's involved and when we do any charter changes, and I'm not going to go through a whole litany of things. I'm going to kind of keep it down to a dull roar and that type of thing. But I know some of you who are serving on the council right now were not around when the Charter Review Committee did their first report. You weren't councilors yet. I encourage those people that weren't around as councilors then to read the report from the first year, okay, to give you some idea of what it's all about, okay? Councilor Donovan was a member of the Charter Review Committee back then at that time, and he was a valuable resource for the Charter Review Committee. But I was a little bit disturbed at some of the stuff that's being bandied about. Okay, and I just want to read from the charter one sentence. Okay, the Charter Review Committee shall study the charter and the implementation therefore, and make a report with recommendations for revisions, if any, to the town manager and town council in each year, ending in 5 and 0. And more often, it deems necessary and appropriate. Okay? One of the things as the Charter Review Committee, we take the process very, very seriously. And we also encourage as many people as possible to come to speak to us, okay, to give up their opinions about what they think is good, what they think they'd like to see changed, and that type of thing. It's a process. Okay? The people who served on the Charter Commission put endless hours into this document way back when, okay? Not that far long ago, about 5 years ago. So, when you look at these things, you have to be very careful that you don't start changing things just for the sake of change. Okay? This has to be done in a process and that type of thing. The last thing I want to say is that when the Charter Review Committee did their process, one of the things they did was a document. Unfortunately, I don't know, they actually did a document about the process for when they did the charter, okay? And one of the things that they did surveys, they did all sorts of things, okay? And back when they took their survey, which went to every single house in this town, okay? 55% preferred a town manager, okay? 27% preferred a mayor, and 8% preferred a weak mayor with a manager, okay? So I would ask that in the future, if you're going to be putting stuff out on social media, that you be careful what you put out, because, if it's misinformation, that's not fair to the community or to this council. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Donahue. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the council this evening? All right, let's move on to the next item of business, which would be confirmations. Measure 24-117, confirmation of reappointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Mr. Borg?
Yes,
To you?
it is, sir. Thank you. And this is the reappointments of the terms that we had shifted to the end of June date. So we're asking for reappointments of the list of folks that you have here. They've all applied and asked for reappointment. I'd just like to point out a couple of names of folks that go above and beyond and recognize them. Melinda Coretta. Did I get it right, Tony? Okay, I didn't get it right. Well,
Huerta.
thank you. Volunteers on multiple committees, does a huge job. Actually helps us put together surveys and polls and stuff. The one you saw on Commission on Disabilities earlier, key there. Paul Keenan jumped on to Commission on Disabilities and really took the bull by the horns and started making difference there, right? Eugene Morris in Veterans. Also serves on the Board of Assessors, right? So a lot of folks here do additional duties, as well as some town employees that are residents. Michelle Dorenzo on the licensing board and what she does for the community in addition to her role in the building department. So it would, behoove me to recognize and ask you for your support of all of these individuals for reappointment to these boards, committees, and commissions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Borg. Is this inclusive of the constables, or is that for the...
It is inclusive of the constable.
Okay. That's this measure, okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. So how do we want to do this? Do you want to approve the measure, or?
I make a motion to approve measure 2024-117, confirmation of reappointments to various boards, committees, and commissions as listed.
Second.
I got a motion from Simmons, a second from St. Pierre. Is there, Dan, it's twice of, no, someone.
Just saw tonight.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That motion passes 7-0.
6-0.
Oh, sorry. What did I think?
No, it's just,
6-0. Measure 24-118. Confirmation of the appointment of Town Attorney KP Law for fiscal year 25. Mr. Borg.
Council President, in accordance with previous practice and policy, we have appointed the town attorney as a...
Stepped out. That's what happened. Sorry, John stepped out. I thought I was crazy. I didn't think I was crazy. There was 7 originally. Okay. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to interrupt. No.
All good, sir. This measure is simply asking that we reappoint KP Law as the town attorney.
No additional financial, it's already covered in the budget, so
It's already covered in the budget, but we also reserve the right to, go out to bid or request for proposal or change this at any time that behooves or is in the interest of the town.
Okay, and obviously by virtue of your reappointment, you're satisfied with the work that's being done?
As of right now, yes, sir.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Bork, on this one before we take a motion?
Are we going to finance on this one, or are we voting this off the floor?
No, it should not be referred to finance. It's a confirmation.
Oh, it says it in the
My apologies.
I'm not looking forward. That's what. Any other questions on this one? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve measure 2024-118, confirmation of appointment of town attorney KP Law for fiscal year 25.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Simmons, second, Mr. Costello. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion passes 7-0. Next up, measure 24-120, confirmation of the appointment of special police officers.
Council President, members of the Town Council, Captain Roy is here tonight, and we're asking for your confirmation of the appointments that have been submitted as special police officers. You have the memorandum that Chief McQuaid has sent to me for this, and Captain Roy is here to answer any of your questions on different roles or what special police do as well.
Hey, Captain.
Hello again.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I always ask this question when this happens, just in terms of what are some of the duties, what do these folks do? Is this, assuming this is already part of the budget, right? Just that sort of overview.
Yeah, these are, now, they're all retirees from the North Attleboro Police Department. We have 10 that we're seeking to get reappointed. Mainly what they do is traffic details. They'll assist at parades, various public functions. They don't go on patrol or anything anymore. And with posts, we used to have some guys that had gone to the Reserve Academy, which is about half of what the normal academy is. Posts had requirements that we weren't going to be able to allow them to complete, so they've sunsetted out, and now we're left with just retirees from full-time duty.
Any other questions? That's cool.
Just one question, is there an age limit?
There is no age limit. In Massachusetts, a full-time police officer has to retire at age 65, but there is nothing that says they have to retire from special duty at a certain age.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve Measure 2024-120, confirmation of appointments of special police officers beginning June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2025, as listed.
Second.
Motion for Simmons, second. Mr. Donovan, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, Captain. All right, next up, subcommittee reports, finance. Measure 24-115, approval to repurpose funds that have been allocated for a server upgrade, IT, in the amount of $30,000 to purchase town council chambers furnishings, including a desk, table, podium, glass whiteboard, and other decor. Amended. How is it amended? Source of funds. Source of funds.
It was source of funds, that's correct.
Yep.
We had originally had this as a free cash allocation to spend for the furniture, but we went back to Sherlock, Linda Contanzariti, our town accountant, who picked up that name in finance for finding the funds, so she was able to work, found money from 2021 in a measure, and we'd like to apply it to these funds, and that's how we briefed it to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Simmons, your report.
Yes, Finance Committee approved this unanimously, noting again that this was money left over from a previous allotment that has not been used, so this is not new town money, this is not new budgeted money. There are still insurance claims going through. That is not the source of this money. If we do receive any insurance funds, that falls to free cash in '26, I believe, because it would come in during '25 and it would hit us and go to free cash for '26. The important thing about some of this furniture is that it is easy to separate and move, so if there is another flooding event, everything can be broken down and moved.
Oh, good.
Anyone else have anything to add from the Finance Committee? I think that pretty
you got
much
it all.
covered this conversation.
Unanimous.
It was unanimous, yes.
Yeah, support.
I would just say, it was, this is from the state bid list with Mass Corps.
Yes, that's right.
Right, and this is furniture that's made by inmates in the current prison system.
So you get a better deal?
You get a very good deal, but it's also, if you look at Plainville's furniture, it's almost the same design, except ours will be in a horseshoe, and very, very good quality. Exceptional work, actually.
Yeah, I've noticed theirs looks pretty nice from what I've seen. For me, excuse me, allergies are still driving me crazy. Just to have, I've been asking for this for quite a while. It took a flood for it to happen, but to be able to plug in our laptops here, right, within the desk versus having a wire, which I'm not even using tonight, that we trip on and stuff. And as long as it's a modest sum and it's affordable, I think it kind of professionalizes more what we're doing here. The whiteboard will come in handy when we have our planning session. Other groups use this room, not just the town council. Other committees and boards use this room. So I think it'll just make it a more functional room for everybody who's using it. Really glad that this one came across our desk.
It's not just because we like shiny new things.
Any other comments? I will take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to.
Oh, was there a comment? Excuse me. Sorry, Mr. Gould.
If I may, I'm not crazy about this, and I tried to watch the Finance Committee meeting this morning, but North TV doesn't have it uploaded to the website yet, so I wasn't unable to see that. But, I mean, before Council President said electricity to the desks, I was totally against this, but I like having electricity, and it's got to be functional. It's just 30,000 seems like a lot. That amount could go a long way towards like providing teachers supplies for their classrooms, especially when we're in the basement of a town hall, which is not an ideal publicly accessible place. I lived here 40 years before I stepped foot in this room. We should focus on having, meetings somewhere the public can see. I'm grateful for the few people that made it, that were, probably everyone here is conscripted to be here, but it'd be great to focus on other things. I mean, I could approve a lesser sum, 10, 15,000. Those are my thoughts.
All right, thank you. We're definitely not making a choice between $30,000 for teacher supplies and this desk. That's a false choice. That's not what we're being asked.
We could take 30,000 free cash and fund that.
You could always talk about this during the budget hearing, right? If you wanted to just ask Mike to reduce a line item by $30,000 to give teachers supplies, I think that'd be fine. I think the school committee would ask for that. I think Antonucci would have to ask for that. We're approving a desk and some supplies for our office, not talking about school teacher supplies. I think that's politicizing a pretty cheap and functional item for the town.
Council President, with your indulgence, I would just say on the price of the things, I'm very proud of the due diligence that we did. It is expensive, but this is solid furniture that one will be able to be adjusted, and if we do have another location for the town council, which is something that we're actually working on, we would be able to take it and be with it. But the other quotes that we received were $50,000 and $70,000. So this was well by far the most affordable choice for this type of furniture.
Any other discussion on this one? I mean, there's desks down probably at the old Allen Ave School. We could bring in the old kids' desks. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think I'd fit.
I'll save a few bucks. I'd take a motion on this one, please.
I make a motion to approve measure 2024-115, approval to repurpose funds that have been allocated for a server upgrade IT in the amount of $30,000 to purchase town council chambers furnishings, including a desk, table, podium, glass whiteboard, and other decor as amended.
Second.
I got a motion, Mr. Simmons, a second from Mr. St. Pierre. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One.
Any abstain? That motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Next up, measure 24-113, appropriation request for the use of FY24 retained earnings from Comcast PEG Access in the amount of $34,499.28 for North TV production van refurbishment. Mr. Simmons.
Yes, Finance handled this at our last meeting, and we approved this unanimously. Again, these are the funds that are raised directly by the ratepayers for Comcast. We are a pass-through entity. The Cable Advisory Board supports this use of the funds. The van itself, although it has very low mileage, is 18 years old and does need extensive auto body work. There weren't a lot of places that actually did the work that they were looking for, so they were happy to find one who would do it. And this should get quite a bit more time out of this van. $34,499.28 coming from the Comcast PEG Access account. And one more time, these are not town funds, these are ratepayer funds, and we are just the pass-through entity authorizing North TV to spend their funds.
And you probably said it, but unanimously
I did.
supported?
It was
Okay.
unanimously, yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Is there any discussion on this one? Mr. Gould?
Thank you. Just curious, what happens to the old van? Are we replacing a van? There's,
This is not a replacement, this is a
Work done.
repair.
Repairing event.
This is for work done on the old van. The old van's not being replaced, that would be far too expensive. So they are doing the body work on the van, which has very low mileage, which will give it quite a bit more useful life for them.
gotcha, thanks.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve Measure 2024-113, appropriation request for the use of FY24 retained earnings from the Comcast PEG access in the amount of $34,499.28 for a North TV production van refurbishment.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Simmons, a second from Ms. St. Pierre. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Mr. Kevin. Next up, economic growth and sustainability. Anybody here from that committee have an update? Assume you know. Bylaw. And SIA, or anybody from that committee have an update?
Nothing at this time.
Rules.
Nothing at this time.
School committee representative.
We have a meeting coming up on June 4th, Tuesday. That's all I have for today.
Sorry, I just thought of something I meant to say. I'll say it now, because we're talking about schools. I am working on, Karen and I are working on the town council schedule for FY25. My goal will be to get that out to you guys in the next couple of days. I just set it off to the school committee chair to make sure that we didn't have any conflicts or anything, so that should be published soon enough. So nothing else from Mr. Costello? School, Mr. Gould?
Just a question about schools. I'm just wondering, when is it going to be released if we're talking a new build or a renovation? Any timeline?
I can give you the update on the school building committee, which is the next item. And I don't know if I can answer your question, but I'll do that, and maybe it'll answer your question. We had a meeting, Mr. Simmons was there, Mr. Borg, you were there for the meeting of the MSBA building committee on Thursday afternoon, and then Thursday evening there was the public forum, which was I think the third public forum, community forum. During the community forum, the education plan was released by the school. It's posted on the school website. I recommend check out that website if you want to know anything about the MSBA project. There's a lot of good information up there. But that education plan is really the educational document that is going to drive the ultimate design. Like, it's going to influence a lot of the design of the new building, because they need to design a building that will be able to meet the needs of the academic plan. So that was a pretty big milestone. I think the only other milestone that we've hit in decision that's been made so far is the decision was made on the site. So the building committee evaluated many sites around town. Mr. Borg and the town departments provided a number of different locations of town-owned land that were evaluated for where the school could potentially could sit. After that evaluation, it was determined that the best available spot is actually on the current site. So not exactly on top of the existing building, but kind of like in the parking lot and in the back where some of those fields are. Is really, if you're thinking about that building, I think some of the tennis courts, like in that part of it, is where an addition as well as a new school would go. So that's going to be the site that they're looking at. I think that could still change, but I think it's pretty locked down.
Council President, I think the site's locked in.
It's locked down 100%.
That site's going to be, it was really the only viable option that we had.
Okay, good. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in June, I think we're going to have a few options to start considering, right? That's like the next step. So there'll be, part of this process is they're mandated by the MSBA to look at new school, to look at a refurbishment, to look at an addition. Was there another one? And an ad reno, right? So there was they have to look at each one of these, addition, renovation.
Potentially 4 choices.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last one.
New school,
Yeah.
right? A refurbish, and then in addition renovation, right? And then they actually presented two conceptual, with your indulgence.
Yeah, go ahead, help me.
What the design team from Doran Whittier was able to present was they took all the educational requirements and reduced those requirements to a block. So they said you had to have X number, based on your student population, a classroom to do X. So they created all these blocks. So each type of requirement was represented by a block in the approximate space that it would need. And then they connected all of these blocks and said, if you were just to stack them all up, this is what it would look like, right? And then they broke it into, here's what it might look like as a new, here's what it looked like with the ad reno, here's what it would look like as a refurbish, right? No cost associated with it whatsoever, but what it did was identify the space requirements that were going to actually be needed. So it was a very good exercise, but it doesn't tell us anything. And because they have to do the design stuff.
It's not the design.
It's not design. It's a block exercise, right? And so that's the first step. And I think the council president is absolutely right. We'll start to see initial concepts here in June, and I think we'll probably have a vote sometime September, October, I think, from the school building.
Final decision, yeah. Final decision.
Because that must be presented to the MSBA for approval as well.
It's going to pick up this summer. I think that whenever, I don't know the date, I'll make sure.
June 18th is the next building.
That's the next building committee? Is that the next public forum?
I believe so.
Thank you. That would be a good one for the public to go to and listen to, because I think we're getting more towards, it's just going to feel a lot more real, you know what I mean, like actual options that we're going to be evaluating. That's the one that I'm most excited for. That's all I know.
Are those meetings public, the building committee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Subject to open meeting laws, yes.
Okay. So that's all I have. Any other questions, guys? Did I miss anything? I think you did not. Okay. All right, so let's move on. Next item. We got communication, public participation, and engagement.
Nothing at this time.
Local emergency planning, please.
We met this morning. Town Manager Borg already hit on the FEMA disaster. I will add that there is a time limit to that to apply and be approved. I believe it's 60 days after the president's declaration. So there is a time limit that can be done in person at the Bristol Community College site for the office. We believe some of it can also be done online. That's how it was handled before they opened up the office. You do not have to have already reported damage to the town in order to apply now. So if there are people out there that did not report damage to the town, you can still apply for this fund. Anyone that has any questions about that, I would strongly urge you to visit the town's website, reach out to Town Manager Borg. And we are about halfway through a multi-year accreditation process. We would be one of the very few towns in Massachusetts who do have that accreditation. I believe the city of Boston and one college are the only ones that have it presently, and we are actively working on that. That was it. There are no meetings scheduled at this time. It's generally done quarterly.
All right, thanks, Mr. Simmons. Any questions? All right, let's move on. RFP Town Auditor Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Gould, you got anything?
I think that our audit committee is on for first reading, hopefully this evening.
It has to be referred, so that then we'll be able to do it. So we have the first reading. You get the measure tonight.
You referred to bylaw.
You have to get the referred by it because you had it not as a referral, but as a development. So now that we have the language, we'll send it back to you through this referral, and then we'll have first
Send it
reading.
to bylaw again?
You have to vote it one more time, yes, sir.
All right.
That doesn't make any sense. We were ready to pass it last meeting.
I mean, yeah, I would have been okay with the first reading tonight, but it's not the way it worked. It's not the way it worked out. We've got a measure.
If you've got a measure with the
Wasn't a measure
language that
before.
was approved for first reading, you feel free to have your first reading, sir.
Emailed it to the council secretary and yourself like weeks ago. Just very disappointed, that's all. There's a deadline in there of June 30th. We pushed it back. We changed the bylaw. It was May 30th. We changed it to June 30th. I don't
For the
know that.
appointment of a committee, sir?
For the committee to report back to council on the performance of the fiscal '23 audit.
Yeah, that's a different thing. That's a different thing. This is the creation of that committee.
That's what I thought we're talking about the creation of committee, not a,
Creation of the committee, in the bylaw that creates the committee, it creates a deadline of June 30th. We already
sir, I stand
changed
by
it.
what I reported to you earlier, that you had no measure before you
right.
with language for a first reading.
Well, it's not on the agenda tonight, so we're going to move on. It's,
Check your email.
tonight we're doing we're referring it to bylaw. We'll get it back and we'll do the reading. We'll go through the process and we'll get it approved. It is what it is, unfortunately. So, I think then, is there anything else from the ad hoc committee?
No, thank you.
All right, we'll go on to the stretch code discussion. This is old business. I actually have a few things I wanted to say on this one before we started, to set a little bit of context. And forgive me, I think the dust on Petty Field this afternoon is like still stuck in my lungs. So, there's a little bit of the backstory. Back a few years back now, right, Mike? The council consulted with representatives from the state, the town manager, the former building commissioner, economic development department here, planning. We looked at the pros and cons, the costs, the benefit, the potential grants, and did a competitive analysis vis-a-vis surrounding communities, and we decided to sign on to the stretch code. I think that was, when was that, 2-3 years ago?
No, it was well before that. It was actually before my tenure.
First council, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but before I came on, and
Yeah.
the actually was adopted and put into place January 1st, 2020.
Thank you. So time flies when you're having fun. You're having fun. I don't know. So it's been a few years. It's been 4 years, and I think we've recently heard about some potential changes to the code. So we wanted to invite our building commissioner in tonight, Hong Lee, this evening to go over the code, how it's impacting our town, pros and cons, what's changed and what will change versus what is just speculation. To me, that's really important. It's like what's real and what's just speculation and what might change. We want to avoid speculation and focus on the facts and what we know. This is intended to be an update for us and for the town, and a chance for us to ask some questions to inform any future decisions on the stretch code and development in our town in general. This review is something that I added to our idea board during our planning session at the beginning of this fiscal year as we set our goals for the year. It has been planned in consultation with the town manager for quite some time. So again, I'm not expecting any decisions or anything to be made tonight from us. This is an update, and it's going to inform us on potential decisions we could make in the future. Really, I think it's good to check in on these things from time to time just to make sure that we're being kept up to date. So that was all. I just wanted to kind of set the premise for that before we started. And Mr. Borg, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, Council President, and thank you for the opportunity. And we had the previous building commissioner before last time here talking to us. So this is the second time in this session that we've brought this and discussed this. So I think the best way to start off on this is the update is there are really three codes that apply right now, right? There's the base code that exists, there's the stretch code, right, that exists, and then there's one new addition is called the municipal special opt-in code, right? Of which the town has not formally adopted and signed in. But the town is adopted and currently has in place the municipal stretch code. And this is really driven by Massachusetts 780 CMR Chapter 115.AA. And I provided you a document here tonight that kind of outlines some of the key talking points of that. Again, this had to be adopted by the town and implement, and then go into effect on January 1st, 2020. This primarily applies in most general terms, right, to new construction, right? You'll see on the second page of the handout where we are a stretch code adopter. There are 299, I believe it's 300 communities now in the Commonwealth that have adopted the stretch code. Once you adopt the stretch code, you are buying into all future updates of the stretch code. And they set a date, they review it. The Department of Energy Resources, which has responsibility for the stretch code, will provide those updates, right? They do it in annual increments, so the current code was created in 2022 but went into effect in 23. There is a code that's scheduled to be updated and modified and go into effect on July 1st of 2024 of the current stretch code. Now, by opting into the stretch code, you do make yourself available to Green Communities grants, which we have done in the past. We've received a little over $300,000 in total in Green Communities grants since that, and that did go to specific projects to help energy efficiencies within our facilities here in town or Barry. For example, the EV installations or the changing to LED lights in a lot of our facilities, air handling insulation, those things. This is designed to make energy more efficient. It's based on a HERS rating, right? HERs, which, let me make sure I got it right here before I tell you what it is. It's a,
It's important to know what HERS means for the rest of the document, right? Because it comes up throughout as you're analyzing the different options for.
That's right. So
home energy rating system.
Home energy rating system, right? And there's actually a specific rater that will go out. And this applies to new construction and certain types of addition within your existing area. So, for example, if there is a development that comes into town and they want to build a residential home, they have to meet the current stretch code, right? So what that means is, if you were going to build the code today, and it's on the second part of your handout, it's under question 20. If you look at table 1, changes to the maximum HERS index, right? And it says updated stretch code on July 1st of this year, 2024. If you were to build an all-electric home, you'd have to have a HERS rating of 45, at least 45. Okay? And the way you get that code is you get credits for certain types of aspects of your home, insulation, heat pumps versus heating oil, right? But this is for new construction. So if you wanted to have a mixed fuel home system, so let's say you wanted a natural gas range, right? Or you wanted natural gas or propane heat. You would still have to achieve by this a 42 in the score and not a 45. It's a more stringent requirement. But you could potentially do that and achieve that by, heating with heat pumps and then have a gas or propane stove, right? Having the highest energy efficient windows on your home. You do have to have a, it's a pressure test, or what's the air, so they test before, Counselor?
Blower door test.
Blower door test, yes sir, that's what it is. To make sure that you've captured and not releasing air. It's also, you're supposed to look at capturing the escaping heat to reuse that back into the home and make it as energy efficient as possible. It does not say that you have to build it all electric. You just have to meet the requirements. So things have changed, and this is the code. Our building team is, they attend classes as these codes are coming out and working with the Department of Energy Resources and getting up there. What does it mean to an existing homeowner, right? What's the impact today? So if you're in your home and you have oil heat and a propane stove and an electric oven, if you're not doing any modifications, it means nothing. There's no requirement to you. There's nothing you have to change. Now, if you're going to do a modification to your home, right, you would have, in order to trip this code, right, if your addition is over 1,000 feet, you would have to be responsible for achieving a new HERS rating. And depending on what type of category you're in, if it was mixed fuel where you had both, let's say electric and a fossil fuel, you'd have to hit that one code if your addition is over 1,000 square feet. If you add an addition that exceeds 100% of the conditioned floor area of the existing dwelling, you'd have to meet the code, right? If you have a level 3 alteration, which is 50% of the home is renovated or reconfigured, you'd have to meet the code. But if you don't, if you're not doing, if you simply wanted to remodel a bathroom, you're not going to be impacted by the stretch code as an existing homeowner. New construction will be impacted by the stretch code. There is residential and commercial aspects to this, right? And how they would achieve it. It's an evolving aspect of it. I thought the documents that they provided, and I'd ask you if you want any more, they did a very good comparison analysis. They used a home development in the city of Worcester on their website, and they talked about cost comparisons. It was designed with certain rebate programs that exist, right? Some of those we don't participate in because we're not a part of Mass Saves because of North Attleboro Electric, because we actually have a better ability to provide electricity at a more affordable rate than through Mass Saves and what they would be able to do. But the energy savings that you would be putting into your home as a result would pay itself back over the years, right? They do say it would increase the value of your home, right? And then I also say the one code the specialized code, the net zero code, the town has not opted into that, right? And there's no requirement. But I would expect that as we move closer to 2050, right, it's going to become, more stringent on new construction. I think if you're an existing homeowner, unless you're planning on adding 1,000 square feet or more, doing over 50% refurbishment of you're not going to be impacted by this. But the cost savings do exist. There are, ways to take advantage.
If you don't mind,
Sure.
You mentioned the table. It's R14 in this document. I think it's page 10 in my PDF. I don't know if that's the actual page number in the hard copy. But it's it's the table that what does it cost to build it to the stretch code and how does this compare with energy saving? Thought it was a good table. I was having a hard time understanding what it meant though, right? So like if you could, if Hong Lee, you can tell me, or Mike.
Yeah.
Like if it's a 4,000 square foot home with gas heat, it says the builder costs savings $3,184, and then residential annual cost savings are like negative $302. Can you just explain to me what those numbers mean? You know what I mean when you say costs and savings and
Right.
negative versus positive?
This is actually based on the presentation that they actually did with the Worcester home, right? Because they used a 4,000 square foot home, they used a 21, and there were certain incentives and different things in all the different aspects of where the HERS and was being impacted, and it had to do with the HVAC, the type of heating, if it was a heat pump or not a heat pump, so they had that all listed out. The builder, right, in this one, at the builder cost, right, would end up, as I understood this, right, would end up costing him more, $3,000 more than it would have building to the base code.
Okay.
Okay? The homeowner would achieve a $302 savings, right, in annual cost based on the efficiency ratings and potential, cost effective. But I'm going to tell you, there are a number of variable factors in all of this. If it's a cold winter, if we have 40 inches of snow or more, if we have a mild winter, if we have a hot summer, if we are in a drought, so they're using averages, right? They're saying that if you went and you see the two columns, gas heat and electric heat, yeah. Right? And maybe I got this backwards. Well, no, I don't think it's a savings of $20,000 for the builder cost and an annual savings under electric heat for the residential under the 4,000 square foot, a savings of $548 compared to the base code. So then you see the 2,100 square foot. You see a townhouse and a multifamily, right? The cost for gas heat, the cost for electric heat, and you see the savings that you would achieve, right, for each of those. But this includes rebates in different aspects that might not always be there, are subject to change, right? Could be limited by funding. But to the homeowner, right, you should realize and see a savings in the net operating costs and energy overall savings. So if you look at the one that where you make out the best is at the 2,100 square foot home, say that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right? What Department of Energy Resources is telling you is here, the builder will save $29,000. The homeowner should expect about almost $1,100 savings based on that. This is new construction only.
Yeah.
New construction only.
Okay, thank you. It seems a little counterintuitive, but I guess with the rebates and things that might, because you would think that if you were designing a home that was more energy efficient, it would be more expensive versus saving, so it has to be the rebate.
I don't know the legitimacy or accuracy of those numbers, as a developer and builder myself, but are we opening this up to discussion just for free range, or are we still presenting?
I would like to,
Okay.
it can do it however we like. Is there any more to the presentation? Ms. Lee, did you have anything you wanted to ask? If you have a question maybe about that table, or something we've covered so far, now would be a good time to ask it. Otherwise,
I'll let them proceed, and then at the end we'll open it.
The only thing is, the town is currently, and I'll finish my remarks with this, and then the town has adopted the stretch code, right? We have been the benefit and received some green communities grants and funding press that has helped us. The code is changing, right? It will change again. I think the codes will get stringent. You do have the option, right? And I think Ms. Wagner spoke to that, and made her, information available to you that she wants you to, keep and maintain it. But you can, by a legislative vote, come out of and go back to the base code, right? But I'm going to, the base code is going to change and update as well as we go through this.
You can't go back to base code.
No, you can only by a vote of the legislative body, right? So the 3 codes still exist. We're a party to the stretch code. We've had it into effect. I would tell you, development is still happening here in North Attleboro, right? We're seeing that, right? If there's an impact to it, I have not had a developer come into me as of yet, and it's not saying that it doesn't exist, but to saying that the stretch code is preventing, us from doing X, Y, or Z. But I'm not saying that doesn't exist, because I would say, and I'm going to point out to what Mr. Gregory is probably going to say is, if this was done a year ago, right, this study where they compared and took the homes in Worcester, I would tell you to go back and look at the price that we just paid for a roof on a school, where the cost went up in a short period of time by $1 million. So that the prices are probably, through inflation, moving up and it going higher. The payback, I think, comes in the long term to the homeowners, right, or to the buildings that adopt these in the energy costs. I think we are extremely lucky to have North Attleboro Electric as a utility in providing us responsive, ready, very affordable electricity. Happy to answer any of your questions and discuss this. I think this is a great topic for discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And so before I open it up for questions, there's just kind of general things that I wanted to hear about tonight a little bit, right? And mention one would just be I know we talked about it probably a year or so ago, but the grants that we've received. What have we received? Let's go through that again and kind of see what some of the positives have been. Right, I think that would be a big one, and how much were they? What have we used them for? Also, when we did this originally, we compared ourselves to other communities, right? And we said, and not because we're trying to compare ourselves to our neighboring communities per se, but because we didn't want to put ourselves at a competitive disadvantage to our neighboring communities, right? If we were the only town that had the stretch code, and all the towns around us didn't, right? That might disincentivize developers from coming into our town to do it, right? Or homeowners from developing their properties, right? Because of the extra costs for the significant extensive alterations. So yeah, that was like I lost my train of thought here. In terms of the comparative analysis. So, are the surrounding communities around here still, a party to the stretch code? Has that changed, right? Have we kind of seen numbers drop, or have they risen? I think that's an important factor in terms of us, because we don't want to put ourselves ourselves and our businesses and our homeowners at a competitive disadvantage to our neighbors. And this is a lot of questions, Mike, but sorry, but like, if we were, if developers were feeling a negative impact here, if residents, if homeowners are feeling a negative impact on this, there's pain, there's a price to be paid for this, right? Like it's a noble goal, right? But we have to acknowledge there's a price to be paid for it. How would we even know? How would we know, in this case, that this was having a negative impact? I would just be curious in terms of, how could we tell? How could we tell? Because I don't know. Maybe other people do, right? Maybe it's just conversations we need to have. But like, just that would be like a discussion topic if folks have thoughts on like how would we actually get a feel for how this is working in our community. And that's why I think I wanted you to invite a building commissioner here tonight. Kind of talk through that a little bit. Like, how are we benefiting? What's the experience like in town with this?
So, Hong, go ahead. Have you heard any experience from builders talking about the stretch code and the impact?
Okay, so basically for what I've been attending several of those training with Ciboa or District 4 meeting is all about each town, all the inspectors, building officials, we talk about this. You build a house, right? You have to build a house. Basically, I just really say, right now, no matter what we do, stretch code is going to be the way to people that pushing. You have no way to say, I'm not doing that. You have to do it because July 1st, 2024, stretch code is going to be spread. It's going to be pushed on the whatever society, every town, whatever. So if you talk about what's the benefit of to the house, I think there's no benefit. It's not just what I think. All the builders, contractors, and the experienced building officials, there's no benefit to the house. Why? How about this? Just make example. When they build a house, they're using the insulation. They like the house can breathe. Mm-hmm. Right now, when they use a closed cell, basically the closed cell is just like the foam close every bay, everything. How about put this way? Just say you're a human, right? And then put a plastic around you. How do you feel that? Your skin cannot breathe. That's from all the people there, all the, our industry, we talk about it. That's not good for the house. Yeah, you may get some sort of like energy like savings, but if the cost going to be, when you build a house, the cost of the building house is going to be $30,000 to $40,000 more than. We're not talking about right now the price, the material price come up, but we're talking about based on the stretch code. The stretch code bring the cost of the house price up. Do I have a choice? No. But when we talk about the third one is the specialized code, basically people's code opt-in. Me and Mike, we talk about it. We don't think we should go that far because when you get to the opt-in, it's going to push more and more. It's going to be more stringent. It's not good for the community or for the single, whatever homeowner. It's not good for them. Because right now, if you just say stretch code, just say for the windows, doors, U factor is a 0.3, like the window, the U factor. If you go to the opt-in, you're gonna pay, I don't know how much you're gonna pay for, but the window, the U factor is gonna be 0.2, between 0.24 to 0.26. So in order for manufacturing to build those type of like weatherproof, it's gonna be expensive than the U factor 0.3. Just for one example, so all those like the closed cell insulation is 40% of the regular, what's it called? The pink, what's that called?
Bad insulation. Bad
insulation. It's like already 40% higher than the before. So we have no choice but to take the stretch code. Right?
You have adopted the stretch code. You have the ability to vote back to the base code, right? should you be inclined? In discussions with Hong, I am not hearing from developers that this is an impediment or a problem. But I will tell you that we still see development coming into town. We still see that picking up, right? But we also see, and something I'm always concerned with, is the ever-rising assessed value of all the properties in town, right? And how much is now we're in the post-COVID phase and you're seeing, the impact of inflation. How much is that driving it? I'm sure that's part of it, but we're seeing the cost of labor, right, go up, right? I think probably the best course of action that the council probably should undertake is, let's watch this for the next year. Let's see what the impact of the labor market is on all of the process, where the assessed value of our home prices start to land, what we see new homes start to sell for here in North Attleboro, because it's going to come back to we have an affordable housing problem, right? And are you still going to be able to achieve a affordable housing if you went back to the base code? I don't know what the answer to that question is.
So I see that there's almost 300 communities that have the stretch code. There's 52 that have not adopted the stretch code, that have just the base code. When we voted the stretch code in, I believe every community around us had already adopted it. And I know that we had asked a question at the time we did it about the cost of construction, in hearing that it wouldn't necessarily increase the cost because contractors are already doing everything this way, so they don't have like a split system where some towns are going to build this way, some towns are going to build this way. Everyone's just going to do the stretch code. That is what we had heard. And we didn't want to be at a competitive disadvantage, but we also didn't want to miss out on the grants in trying to do our part. So I would be interested to see if there are builders who are doing both, or if all builders are just going stretch code construction. The specialized code, the net zero code, I think goes too far. I don't know that I would necessarily be in favor of removing the stretch code, where almost every community in the state has it, and I think we've seen with the state recently with other things that if towns don't adopt what they want you to adopt, the state punishes you. Specialized code's too far. I don't know that I'd go back to the base code, but I am keeping a close watch on the stretch code requirements and whether or not that's going to increase production costs. Housing is unbelievably unaffordable, and anything we do to push it to higher prices just hurts people.
Mike, can I just say one quick comment?
So I guess looking for another year, generally how I want to do everything is just keep studying it until something jumps out at us. And I don't know that we're there yet. But I think the specialized code goes way too far.
Mr. Gregory. Thank you. So, very passionate topic for me. A lot to, just kind of discuss and unpackage. But as being one of the first members on the council that voted favorably for this, it made sense, right? Everybody in the surrounding communities were doing it. We knew it would open us up to some grant money. I'm okay with stretch code as in conceptually thinking, right? But then there's that aspect of, theory and practice, okay? Right? So this is phenomenal as it was, but I'm not okay with them moving the goalposts. And once we're locked in, there's no control over, now it's a 42 score. That is very hard to achieve. Very hard and very expensive. I'm talking insulating foundation walls, which you typically wouldn't do in construction with a R10 value. Like she says, the windows, standard 2,400 square foot home, maybe my window package might have been $17,500. You're instantly at $30,000. And ultimately, if you think the builder's going to absorb those costs, it's just not going to happen. So that gap is going to be wider and wider as it relates to people trying to buy new construction, which is what everybody wants. So it's those unintended consequences that happen for us wanting to have these progressive policies, which in theory are great. Yes, it is a better product in the sense of its efficiency. But there's still not enough research to even say that the home still needs to breathe. What's the interior rock going to happen when that house isn't, the airflow in the house isn't happening? There's not enough research out there yet for these things. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. The net zero is an absolute no. Not as long as I'm in this seat, I will never vote for that. But there's got to be a way for us to say, what's our commitment to the stretch code as we know it without the goalposts moving? Because I think we finally perfected it. We were able to, put together a bill that works. But now this 42, it's going to be hard to achieve. And we don't have a data set yet because it hasn't been implemented, and it won't be until July 1st. So then in a year from now, we'll be able to see. And I think we need to get some input from developers who are doing it, or will be subject to having to do it.
I absolutely agree. And I think this is something that we should watch closely because, it goes back to, I think, having affordable options for housing. And are we building the right types of housing in the community now? And then I would go back to net zero, absolutely agree. And I would say anybody that's interested in that, because you haven't adopted it, doesn't mean that they can't build a home to that standard if that's what they want. I'm sure they could reach out to a person like yourself, sir, and say, I'd like to build a net zero home, and you charge them appropriately for that. So that still can happen. Those homes can still exist, right? But as it being required in the code, that doesn't necessarily have to be a reality here in North Attleboro.
And the last thing I would add, sorry, is just the idea of sourcing the materials you need to make the homes energy efficient. They're not necessarily readily available. So then there's those supply chain issues and the shortages, like they just don't have, the zip system isn't out there that has insulation. Like, if everybody's doing this, it's going to be hard to get these materials if we just don't know what this is going to look like. So, that's my position, yeah.
I think stay with the stretch code, like we discussed it. No further action taken. That's the best way to just for now.
I do think that's something that we need to monitor, and I think, Councilor Gregory, you're right. We need to get feedback from developers. It's not July 1st yet, right? So we're under the 23 codes right now, and we're still seeing development come into town, right? I think this is a good benchmark to say, let's look at the past year compared to the next year, what the impact is. Where do we see the value of homes, land as a result of this? Because that will bear fruit in your November meeting at the tax classification hearing, right? So there's connections to that. Gil, you were going to say?
No, I was just going to make a quick comment. I'm not sure if it's true now, but what the Department of Energy was teaching at one point was the old stretch code will become the new building code eventually. So it repeats the cycles. Today's not the new stretch code coming July 1, but the prior stretch code will eventually become the new state building.
So if you wanted to opt to the base code,
It's not the old base code that we used to.
You're going to get 2023, right? So
2021.
all the stretch code is, all the stretch code is you're 1 year ahead of the base.
Is that true, or is that just speculation?
I don't know that.
I don't want to have speculation. I don't want to have any speculation. It needs to be a fact. So if that's not a fact, it's not something we should be thinking about. Like, let's deal with certainties. Mr. Donovan.
A couple of things that just strike me about this. When the stretch code originally came out back in 2009, we didn't have the MBTA Communities Act, so there was nobody paying attention to the housing crisis. They seem to be somewhat at cross purposes. You're trying to build more housing, but at the same time, you're doing things that are driving up the cost of housing, making it more affordable. There's also the bigger picture of Massachusetts having, I think, the second or third highest cost of living in the country. So there's a tremendous amount of out-migration of people leaving Massachusetts for cheaper states. Something Darius touched on, and something actually, Mike, you've touched on before in a different area, the cannabis rules. The state has a habit of pulling the rug out from under you. They tell you something's going to happen, and then they change it at the last minute. And so, for example, with the cannabis retailers, we don't get all of the money that they said we were going to get. Same thing's happening here. The stretch code we voted for is not the stretch code in place now. That concerns me. I agree with what John says. I don't think today I would consider jumping ship. There's too many other things going on in the housing market. The interest rates and that sort of thing driving up costs, the lack of inventory. But I am concerned about this. I don't see how we're going to solve the housing crisis by making houses more expensive to build. Even though we're making them more expensive to build for what is a good goal. But we all know which road is paved with good intentions, and so I agree with John. We really need to keep an eye on this and see where this heads.
Can I give you a comment, Tim?
Thank you.
Pat?
Yeah, I just think that we have a good example. We just sold 2 lots came with houses. So we have 2 lots in town that are going to be built on, they're going to have to follow the stretch code. I mean, there's good examples for us to just look at as it goes on this year.
It's a great example. So essentially, we sold for land only, so the prices went for a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
But they will, depending on what they do, which both of those places will require major renovations, will have to be built to the current stretch code of July 1st, 2024.
I think people I don't want to just focus on the developers too, right? Like I'm a homeowner. And look, say you're at the point in your life where maybe my kids have moved out, and I want to do some renovations on my house. I want to remodel my house. If it's greater than 1,000 square feet or whatever the terms are, right, for an extensive alteration or addition, I might not actually do that.
You can do that. What you can do is renovation under 1,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
My point is, at a certain point, and I'm just using it as an example, but any homeowner, any person, not just me, any person, right, might at that point in their life decide not to renovate their house. They might say, you know what, I'm going to sell my house, I'm going to get out of here, I'm going to go down to Florida where it's cheaper, and I'm not going to do this upgrade on my home in
Or you
town.
do an 800 square foot renovation.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm going to, but that's not.
Just saying.
So
That is an option.
That is an option. Yes.
That is an option.
There's just these costs though that are so we need to be eyes wide open about them. Like we said, it's a noble cause, but there is a Yep. Mr. Gould.
Thank you. So my first interaction with the stretch code was when I actually did what Council President's saying. About a year ago, I pulled a building permit to do a small addition, 2 or 3 rooms. There were some requirements. The stretch code, I was told the stretch code is making me buy R49 instead of R19, whatever it was. Forgive me if I get it wrong. But it was over $1,000 more for installation. And I couldn't find it. I had to travel hours away to get this stuff when I needed it to put it in. Also, because I added a bedroom, it triggered the fire alarm.
The whole house.
So I had to hardwire all the existing bedrooms to the new bedroom, and that's another $5,000 because I added these 3 rooms. So it was a negative. Let me finish. It was a negative interaction with the stretch code at first, but I like to see both sides. So I actually have been in communication with the resident, and I checked out a podcast that was recommended on the benefits of stretch code. And apparently it's good for the environment, and it saves money in the long term, like for the homeowner. However, I also talked to building officials. I talked to construction experts, and they're telling me that on average it costs 30% more for new construction to comply with this. And I mean, don't take that as law. We should look into this more, but I don't like that it hurts freedom of choice. Maybe I would have gotten a little better insulation, but I should have that choice. I don't think we should make a hasty decision, but I will say that there is a proposal later in this meeting for a charter change that would allow the council to have an independent analyst to look into stuff like this. I think Councilor Gregory is the most informed on the council, but if we have an independent analysis of the data, the market trends, the future, I mean, if we could lock in the 2023 code and say we're going to stick with this one, That's it. I'll leave my comments there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gould. I'll open it up if there's any final comments. Again, we're not making any decisions tonight. Again, this was just part of a regularly scheduled checkpoint on something that impacts our residents and our businesses, and it's important for us to keep an eye on it. I think what I'm hearing is we are going to continue to keep an eye on it as a council. It's our purview to be a party to this or not, and because of that, it's incumbent upon us to do our duty and keep an eye on this stuff for our residents. I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate the update. I'd like to, do it again. In the next year, probably a year from today, you can kind of see where it fell. Any other?
Just briefly, one of the things that I think we also have to look at is the potential long-term savings for heating the house, operating the house, managing the house. It may cost more to build up front. You may get that money back over the lifetime owning the house with savings. I would love to hear more about breathability of the houses. And I am a big personal choice, liberty, government, stay out kind of guy, but I want to remind everybody who might, think like me is we used to make the same arguments about seatbelt laws. And I can't possibly imagine getting into my car and not putting on my seatbelt now. Thought processes do change over time. I don't like giving up personal choice. But that has to be one item that we weigh. It can't be the sole overriding item. It's an awful lot to have on our plates, and I do think another year of looking at it and seeing how it works out with the new updated code, leaving the stretch code in place is a good idea while we do that, and just keep our eyes on it and see what happens in the future.
You look at that number, 52 to 42, that's a 20% increase in 1 year. So I mean, or you know what I mean, like a decrease really, but like that's impactful. So it makes sense that we're it's catching our eye. I think it's perfectly reasonable for a council to look at these things. All right, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Good conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. Hopefully we can roll through here. We got new business. Nope, we have a presentation. Stantec presentation, Church Street, downtown public parking lot design. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
So as we get started here, Council President, members of the council, let's go to the next slide so we can see that. This is a part of, the downtown redesign effort that we've been working on for a very long time. Thanks to Stantec for helping us and sponsoring us. A lot of sidewalk improvements down there. We're very proud of that. And in front of the Baptist Common there, we did change one of the traffic flows and created a more safer intersection, right, at Park Street and North Washington. So, and I know some people, in fact, I was driving there. Wait, let me, with your indulgence, please. I did see somebody that still has to adopt to the new traffic pattern and was still wanted to drive straight through. So we're working on that, and I know that's a discussion Mark and I are having, but we're very proud of this, and we think this is going to actually help out, and this is going to go with some of our wayfinding and signage efforts here in downtown. So I'll turn it back over to Stantec now.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna John, and I'm a civil engineer with Stantec. So I'm here to talk to you about the Church Street parking lot, which is an existing lot, a short walk from North Washington that appears like it might be underutilized. Some residents might not know that it's there, not know to use it. So just to orient everyone, it is the lot that's highlighted on this sketch. And here are some existing condition photos. So there are some EV chargers, which will remain in place. There's some fencing that might have seen some better days. You'll see that on the bottom right. And there's a lot of empty spaces like you'll see in the photos. And this is a rendering of the proposed plan. So existing today, there are 43 spaces. With this proposed plan, there would be 42, but you are gaining just under 2,000 square feet of landscaped area. We're looking at a rain garden in the back, some uplighting that'll be protected by granite curbs. So I'll show some photos of that. And then we are like Town Manager Borg said, looking at some wayfinding signage. So these are two concepts that we're looking at. So far in the budget, there are 4 signs to direct people from North Washington to the lot. And we're also looking at adding a brick wall and an ornamental sign to make it feel more municipal, secure, really have a municipal aesthetic. So that would be a backlit sign that's currently in the budget that's on a brick wall at the face of the lot as you enter. Another thing that we've heard through the feedback is that there's some security or concerns, people parking at night if somebody's working in a store on North Washington and they need to go back to their car. So we are working with the police department and IT to match some existing surveillance that's already in town at other locations. That's a picture of an Avigilon camera. So we're looking into that and looking at the design, but it would integrate with the existing system. So some of those proposed site features that I talked about are granite curbing, a low-impact rain garden towards the rear, the brick wall at the front, and replacing the existing fencing with something more ornamental, similar to that picture on the bottom left. This is a picture of the landscaping plan. So like I said today, there's no existing landscaping. It's 100% paved. We're really looking at landscaping along the bottom of the screen here. You'll see a lot of plantings, and then also in the bump outs that we're adding, which will protect those new light fixtures. So there's a lot of plantings here. This is what some of them look like. And we have been working with the town to pick things that are low maintenance and native to the region and give some seasonal variety so it'll look nice year round and hopefully not be too much maintenance for the town. This is the lighting that we talked about, and we are working with DPW to make sure we're consistent with the specs that the town likes, but the existing lights are really high up and really bright, so these would be more of a pedestrian municipal scale in those bump outs that I talked about. This is an opinion of probable cost. Like you all discussed tonight, inflation is very real. So there is a lot of contingency built into this to try to account for that. But we have different line items for the paving and the curbing, the landscaping, drainage improvements, the signage and lighting, and then also the surveillance. That surveillance number is just from a previous quote that the town got in. It's still to be determined as the design is being finalized. And that is all I have for this evening. But if there are any questions or if you would like me to go back.
I'll ask Michael.
Sure, go.
Go ahead. No issues from me, sir.
So I'll just add that this project came about during the downtown concept plan. During the workshops, a very popular comment was, I did not know that was a municipal parking lot. I did not know the town owned it. So what Anna and I and Mark have been working on during, I would say, the past 6 months is trying to make it feel like a town-owned parking lot. Add branding, add a logo, add the ornamental wall. The design for the signs, that went through multiple versions of trying to really nail down that look. So, you know, it really looks and feels like a public parking lot.
Thanks, Gil.
I like, oh, go ahead, Mike, you go.
Just
finish.
So we briefed a whole downtown scape. We worked with the planning board. We worked with a number of publics. We worked with Stantec. We marched from one end of downtown all the way to the other, right? There's two things that I heard loud and clear on a number of occasions. One, not enough parking, right? Two, we have a municipal parking lot. Now, we do, yes. This is part of our effort to kind of rebrand this. We think this is the logical next step. The whole downtown streetscape that we did and worked with Stantec actually has a net increase of parking spaces, right? Even though you lose some here, right, there's an overall net increase in the parking. Because the plan that we've gotten, we're in agreement with, it calls for reallocating and moving some of the fire hydrants. I know Mark did this tour with us on a couple, and we're able to capture back some spaces and spots so that we're able to relook at where we have curb bump outs, not chicanes, please, no chicanes, but but bump outs that are going to enhance pedestrian safety. So when we hear a couple spots lost, I think the aesthetics and the give back, I have never seen this lot full, right? But I don't live here 24/7. But, Mark, has it ever been full?
Sundays, it's very full.
Sundays for church.
Parade, probably, the Santa Parade, events downtown.
You know. But we think that this, is a very good project. We think this is the logical next step going forward in our downtown development. And it kicks off and really brings into our wayfinding and signage that we want to bring to. So we're excited about this, and we're glad to have Stantec come here and make this presentation for us.
You definitely answered the questions that I was going to ask just then, around the utilization and around the you said we lost a spot. I was kind of like, people are gonna be like, oh my God, we're going to lose spots downtown. But if we're making them, if we're picking up more spots elsewhere, that's good. So that kind of solves that problem. And I was glad to hear about the thought around the low maintenance shrubbery and native to the region. Again, if there's a lot of plants that they're going to be maintained, let's just make sure that that's going to be a low maintenance kind of thing. So
They are drought resistant and salt resistant.
Excellent.
Using junipers, right, Gil?
No, please. Councilor Dunn, you'll have the chair of the planning board up in arms.
I know, that's why I addressed my comment to Mr. Hilario.
Please. Sure, please.
Yeah, Mark, please step forward.
Yeah, just briefly, and if anyone knows me, I don't decorate. I don't really care what it looks like. But, I don't think you're losing one spot in this parking lot. You're gaining 42. Unless you're homeless, you live in those apartments on either side, 5 days a week, nobody's in there. It really is something that, we do have lighting down there. It's frightening. It looks like prison lighting. So I really do think that this would be an advantage to the town to have good wayfinding going up there, to have, a well-lit, well-organized parking lot up there. There are some things that I would recommend changes. Right now, previously, that parking lot does have overnight parking for it for the people who are living there. They're supposed to be on one side. There's people who are literally living in that parking lot. There are cars that are there that don't move, most of the year. So we'd probably look to make some changes on the regulations in the parking lot and possibly work with the property owners on either side of that. But that is something the Board of Selectmen did appropriate a long time ago for those residents there. But I do think this is a huge gain for the town. I know it's a fair amount of funding, but the last time we did anything to this parking lot besides plow it was 17 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Hollow. So this is already funded, right? Like we're not, there's.
No, sir.
Oh, so are we going to have a measure in the future?
We're going to come back to funding once we locate the source of the funding.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that. Mr. Cool.
Thank you. Was it part of the study to assess the parking needs for the foreseeable future? Is this going to be sufficient? Is a parking garage eventually going to be needed in 10 years? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was slightly involved in the master planning study, so I can't speak to the full extent of it. I don't know if you want to take that.
So, Councilor Gold, we did undertake parking and did a study of what the current needs and uses are, right? We have been in discussions with other property owners about the potential for a parking garage to address future needs. That has been an ongoing discussion with Bank of America, who owns the lot just down the street from this lot. And we'd love to see that development. We'd love to partner with them on that. We do see that there's going to be potentially increased needs, but we also believe that we want to become more walkable as well, right? And striving to meet all these. But right now, we are a vehicle, driven base of residents that like to drive their car everywhere. So it is going to expand. It will put additional pressures on it. And we are looking at other options for including parking garages.
Right, so if Bank of America is adjacent to this property, instead of dropping $500,000, maybe we wait and do a $2 million big garage.
If Bank of America were interested in doing it, I'd probably bring that forward to you as soon as I had it in hand.
Quickly, just, you had indicated that we were actually losing one space there. I was going to jump all over that, but then you answered that question as to why, because of those bump outs protecting the new lights. If I could just hear you say that again, so when we get asked why we are building something smaller than we have now, it's actually to protect our investment.
That is correct. So there are 4 bump outs on this plan. And there's also a little bit of snow storage at the back as well. So yes, that is why.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So this obviously isn't final, it's a moving target, subject to change based on feedback?
Yep.
Okay, love the hardscape, love the vegetation to soften it. Is there any idea about like uplighting? I think that goes a long way. I see everything that you have is like 6-7 feet off the ground, like a street light, but what about soft uplights, maybe around the hardscape or, accent certain areas, just something to consider.
Yeah, there is backlighting on the ornamental wall on the sign.
Oh, okay.
And that was in the cost estimate that we included. We got that number from the vendor. That's the only other lighting in addition to the more pedestrian scale lighting. It is a really big improvement from what's out there today, but definitely heard your comment.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing a measure come back.
Looking forward to finding the money, sir. I'm working with Linda on that one.
All right, so we can move on to the next one. Measure 2024-121, creation of a town audit subcommittee. This is coming from bylaw right now, or we're just seeking a referral to bylaw?
So I found the language, Council President. I mean, I don't want to read 2 pages if that would bore everyone.
You found the language for what, sorry?
The bylaw approved language for this committee.
What do you want? I'm sorry. What are you trying to get to?
I mean, so I would, move for a first reading if council's inclined. The language is here, it's approved by bylaw. I see no reason to further delay.
I would, but we generally will put first reading in the agenda. I don't know if that would, you know what I mean? Like
You'll still have a second reading.
Move to waive the first.
Like I honestly don't care. I wouldn't want to be.
I'm just trying to make the deadline.
Are we doing anything foul to like open meeting by not publish it? You know what I mean? We didn't put first reading in the agenda. That would be my only concern with that. Like I wouldn't want to.
Reasonably foreseeable.
Well, go ahead. If no one has, make the motion. If anybody.
I would move that we approve this bylaw as presented, as favorably recommended by the bylaw committee.
You can't make that motion. You should withdraw that motion. You can't approve. We can't approve something that hasn't received a first or a second reading.
Okay, so withdrawn.
You were suggesting before you said that you would move to have the first reading be this evening, which that would be something that I would entertain as long as nobody had any concerns with it. But we can't prove it.
No, that's what I meant to say. Thank you. So I would move that we have the first reading this evening.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. The only discussion I would have is, does anybody have any concerns with that we haven't published the first reading in the agenda? If that's not that would be my reason for voting no on this one. Otherwise, I couldn't care less. I'd do the first reading.
So we often waive the actual reading, but we don't waive it going on the agenda. Those are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Waiving the reading is easy.
Yep.
And if we were going to go forward tonight, I would make a motion to waive the reading, because I don't want to sit here.
Yeah, me too.
And listen to 2 pages. No. It's a bylaw, 2 readings, public hearing, vote, and then a wait till it becomes effective. And I don't have Robert's rules. I need former Councilor Lennox to call me on my cell phone and tell me whether or not we can do this. I don't know.
Is it Robert's rules or is it open
All right.
meeting law?
If there's any
Waiving the reading versus not having the reading on the agenda are two different things.
I don't want to waste too more time on it. Like, I'll probably end up voting no then, just if there's any risk at all. I just, again, it's a minor thing. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Like, either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it.
Council President.
Yeah.
With your indulgence. So, and just to understand, you never had this language in a measure presented to you, the council, for referral to bylaw. You, as I understood it, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, that's fine, but you had a task to develop and come up with the language for a bylaw subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
That went to that committee, they developed the language. And I think and the reason, Councilor Gould and I might have a disagreement here is because I don't think you as a council have had a measure that came before you with all the language and says, this is what we're proposing as a bylaw, and then getting it referred to bylaw to. All they were tasked to do, as I understand it, was to come up with the language potentially to have a bylaw. So that's why I think we are in this position. Do I think you could do this? I think you could do this as a first reading tonight if you so choose. But I would also say that we've in the past practice is you've always had language before you that all of you read, right? All of you agreed to, and then it got referred back to that committee. They voted it, came back with a vote to you. This is the language that we have approved. So, and I think that's what maybe the disconnect is.
This is an interesting one because generally the bylaw committee is not drafting the bylaw that comes before. So, you know what I mean? Like
given that everyone will have a chance to read it before we approve the second reading, I don't see any harm.
One of the things we can do is we can have the first reading tonight, and if we later get told that we can't do that,
then we come back and do it again.
Do it next meeting.
I like that.
But if we do it tonight, it's out of the way and it's closer to adoption.
Fair enough. Let's just do that.
Thank you.
So we had a motion first and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that we can do the first reading. Is there a motion to waive the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Sure, Mr. Donahue.
I think you need to be.
I'm allowing it.
Okay.
Well, I really don't want to spend much more time.
Kind of the quandary that you have, this happened a lot of times on town meeting floor with the RTM, instead of reading the whole thing. But what you can do I know what you're trying to do because it's been a long meeting, maybe make a motion that you will read this at the second reading. When you read it at the second time, where normally you would circumvent reading of it at the second meeting. You do the reading. Since you skipped it the first time, then make sure you do it at the next meeting. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a motion in a second.
I have a motion in a second.
I think we already voted.
No, did I have a motion in a second to waive the reading?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
I did? Okay, who made them?
I made the motion.
He seconded,
Julie Gould seconded it. To waive the actual reading.
To waive the reading tonight, to waive the first reading. I don't remember it, but there's been a lot of. So I'm going to take you guys' word for it. I have a motion and a second to waive the first reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes 7-0. And we may have to come back on this one if it turns out that we needed the bylaw to be referred back to bylaw to be approved again as the actual measure. I understand, despite the fact that bylaw proposed it to us and fully supported originally, they didn't actually support the specific measure. So if that is in some way not allowable, then we will just have to go back and start again. So I hope we saved a little time there. So let's move on to the next one. Item C, Measure 24-119, contract approval, appointment of town auditor, CLA Clifton Larson Allen LLP for fiscal year 25. Now, I received an email earlier today from Mr. Gould. I believe that you said this was already completed. I did see in the meeting minutes from May 11th, I believe.
March 11th.
March 11th, sorry, that,
The vote was 8-0.
that we had approved
Is this appointed
appointing
CLA? This is your contract, sir.
Yeah, so let me finish, please. So I was given the context that I had received that email, and I was going to ask you, Mike, if there's a difference between what we approved on that March 11th meeting versus approving a contract, which may be different. So I was going to ask you for that clarification, and we can go forward.
It's a very good question, Council President. You select the town auditor, right? And I believe that's what you previously did. But this is a contract that you, as the town council, are approving, that I am only serving as the CPO on it. So I don't think there's a problem with you approving the contract. I mean, if I had a bargaining contract, I would have to bring it in front of you for approval of funding. And I think the charter is silent on this particular aspect, and if it's your contract and not the town's, from the council.
It's a little gray because it's the council's prerogative and the town manager usually executes
And I am
contracts.
subordinate, and correct, I am subordinate in this role. So I err on the side of caution. I think, might you call this over legislation? I don't know. I think it's safe. It's your contract. You're the one approving it. I can't change it, only you can.
So just as a point of information, CLA hasn't officially stamped it as a good contract yet. Should we wait until they do that, or I'm okay just doing it now if you want to do it now, and just
I don't think our position is going to change whether CLA, wants to change the contract or not. So I think we're in agreement. We're agreeing to.
I'd be okay just doing it then.
So are we seeking a referral, or are we seeking to approve it? What's the dollar value?
So this is recommended defining.
The value in the single year is well over the $20,000 threshold, so that's why we're seeking a referral to the finance
Seeking a
subcommittee.
referral to finance committee. Yeah. So we can get this referred to finance committee, quick review, right?
Yeah, we're meeting next week.
Get it back next week. All the
We'll have it back on the next.
I's will be dotted, T's will be crossed, and just get it done.
Make a motion to refer measure 2024-119 to the finance subcommittee.
Second.
Got a motion for Simmons, second from Ms. St. Pierre. Any discussion to refer? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, that motion passes 7-0. It's referred. We'll talk about it next meeting. Next up, measure 24-122, authorization to repurpose CIP funds in the amount of $30,000 for Department of Public Works Administrative Capital Improvement Project. Mr. Board.
Council President, this is a measure I want to take this potential project because we'd like to execute it right away out of the CIP that we have before you. What we've done is this would be utilizing other funds that we found. Linda, again, did her magic and went back and looked through all of our different measures and fundings that we found. And we have the funding existing, so we want to take it out of the CIP, have you authorize this so Mark can begin this project right away, and we're asking for a referral to the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
I make a motion to refer measure 2024-122 to the finance subcommittee.
Second. A motion for Simmons, a second for Mr. Donovan. Is there any discussion on the referral? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Good night. All right, the next item is an update on Counselor Town Charter feedback. So I'm going to give a little backstory here. I get a lot of backstory. Wrote more than I remember.
All the time.
So the charter discussion, this discussion tonight has been planned since around September 2023. It was put on the idea board during our goal setting session at the beginning of this fiscal year. and it wasn't triggered by any specific proposals that, have happened recently. This is something that has been planned. Having the council understand our role, what we can and can't do in regards to the charter, and potential changes of the charter is something I prioritized when I became the president of this council 3+ years ago. Not because I wanted to make changes per se, but more so to empower the council so that we can know what we can and what we can't do, right? So that was the logic of this, what we can and can't do in regards to the charter. So we don't know what we can do, we can't do anything. Right? So in 2022, I invited through the town manager, KP Law, to come to one of our meetings and walk us through the charter, the types of amendments that we can make, the process and the law behind any changes. It was very informative, and I sent out the North TV video and the PowerPoint slides to the council earlier this week, so you all should have been in receipt of that. Last year, this item was also on the agenda around the same time, about a year ago today. It was a very quick discussion. We moved on. So here we are again in 2024. I'd like to do this, and we'll do it again. We'll do it again next year, I imagine. So this year, though, it's a different set of circumstances. We heard from Mr. Donahue earlier tonight, right, about the Charter Review Committee, and they're convening to draft their 5-year report, which is a review of the charter and how the government is functioning, which the report itself is mandated by the charter. So it's going to happen in every year that ends in a 5 and every year that ends in a 0. I'm hoping we'll be in receipt of that in July, right? Or at least they'll be meeting in July to be conducting the
Point of information, next year ends in a 5.
FY25.
So it's a year from now. It's not this July, it's next July.
That would be for next council.
Okay, well so that's important. That is a good point of information, thank you. In consultations with Simmons and Borg, Town Manager Borg, we decided approach this year a little bit different. And actually, now that I actually thought that they were meeting in July, in a month.
I thought they're going to meet over the year.
So it's over a year. It's a year-long process that this is going to
starting in January.
Years ending in 0 and
Okay.
5.
Okay. So
Issued the report.
it doesn't really change my proposal, but that kind of caught me off guard. I was thinking it was going to happen sooner. So what I actually am still going to recommend, right? And I received a number of proposals from Councilor Gould on this. I know it's a topic that he's interested in. But what I'd like to do is actually give every councilor an opportunity to submit their ideas, any changes, any feedback, actual charter changes, things that you might think are working, not working, whatever it might be. As a legislative branch of government, we're a big part of this. We're feeling its impact, the charter's impact, on a regular basis. We're working very closely with the town manager, who's the executive branch of government. So I think in our experience, we have a lot to offer. What I would like to do is to ask all of you to send me, and to Karen as well, CC me, send it to Karen, or vice versa, any other input that you might have on the charter. I know I've heard from multiple councilors, kind of offhand conversations. I've talked to John and Dan, not leading into this meeting, all right, but just over the course of the last couple of years, just on things that we would do. What I would like to do is consolidate that feedback from the council, put it together into a report, and then share it back with this council at either the next meeting or the meeting after, right, and just sort of see if we can identify any themes. We could talk about that document, I think, during that meeting. But I just wanted to give everybody a chance to get their ideas heard, and think of really kind of an intelligent way for us to talk through it, right? Because if there's 20 ideas, I don't want to have a meeting talking about 20 ideas. But I'd like to find a way to, maybe funnel those down, identify 2 or 3 that we really feel passionately about. It can be something that we can talk about. But I do personally, right, and we can talk about this, it's something I think we could talk about, is more around the process. The Charter Review Committee is kicking off their process now, right? Ultimately in this
January next year.
Soon enough, right?
Not really.
Please, if you don't mind. They're kicking off this process, right? In the immediate future. It's part of the charter. It's a 5-year review. I don't want to come off as stepping on their toes as part of this. And again, I think we're fully within our purview to discuss this, and we can make changes with or without the Charter Review Committee. However, I think the intent of the Charter Review Committee, the intent of the charter itself, they've come together, they've been established. Their job, right, is to actually do this for us. I would really like to be able to kind of hear their point of view on this personally. That would be important to me. And I do hope that they would be interested in our collective feedback, which I think this gives us an opportunity to kind of speak maybe as one body in terms of what we may or may not provide to them. So I'd just like to ask you guys to indulge me in this process, and I did talk to John and Mike about this. We agreed it was the approach we wanted to take. Let's just consolidate this document, bring it together, review it, and we can give that to the Charter Review Committee. If we should decide that there's things on this list that are so important to us that we want to move forward as a council, we can do that. But at this point, that would just be like the way that I would like to approach it. So I don't want to talk about any specific items tonight, but Mr. Gould, if you had something about the process, feel free.
So I generally agree with your comments, Mr. President. I think this is a very important responsibility that council has. As we saw, KP Law, this presentation said the process is council recommends, state approves. If it's important, if it's major, the voters would approve. So, whether it includes Charter Review Committee or not would be our prerogative. It's important to briefly mention the impetus behind a few of these proposals. And of course, I'd welcome any other councilors.
I really would prefer not to talk about specific proposals tonight. This was an update from me.
You mentioned you had talked with Dan and Mike and John, and respectfully, I'd like the same opportunity. Briefly, less than 60 seconds. We allowed members of the public to speak for minutes. I'm asking for 60 seconds as an elected council member.
Are you elected? I wasn't aware. But sure.
You treated me less than you treat a member of the public.
If you would like, let's not cry. Let's not cry.
I'm asking for 60 seconds. I don't think that's too much.
Have your 60 seconds. Jeez, I can't wait.
So I would welcome, and I've been in discussions with other councilors too, and actually 2 of my proposals are directly from my conversations with Charter Review Committee member and another councilor. So 7 of these proposals, 2 of them are from collaboration. I've reached out to many people. I won't dwell on the details. A few of them are election related, moving the election to November from April. A few of them are empowering the council, giving us the ability to hire an analyst, to have a dedicated clerk that would report to the council. And frankly, it might not be the best solution to present the package to the Charter Review Committee as a whole. I like what you said earlier, Council President, maybe we need another meeting to kind of flush these out, get a report, see who submits proposals. There's one proposal that would make the Charter Review Committee members appointed by the council president instead of the town manager. And that might not be.
I literally was asking not to talk about specific items tonight, right? I proposed as the president.
To the process.
As the president, I proposed a process for how I hoped that we could have this conversation
because that would show bias.
In a productive way, please. Please.
Do I not have the floor?
You do not have the floor anymore. You do not have the floor. You're out of order. I asked us to not talk about specific ideas tonight. I suggested a process by which we could have this conversation around the charter. We're commencing that process. You don't like that process, but you don't like
being respectful. I just want to be heard.
You don't like that process?
Should I go to the podium as a member of the public and you won't cut me off?
I've offered a way for us to have this conversation, right? The conversation is, we're talking about the process tonight, an update. People will submit their ideas. We will have a next meeting. Nobody else seems to have a problem with a proposal and a process. I'm trying really hard to have a way to get all of the councilors to have all their ideas heard. You submitted 8 to 10 ideas to me. It's difficult to process 8 to 10 ideas at once. This was a way that I thought that I could fairly and equitably process multiple ideas.
15 seconds to finish my thought.
You may not. You may not. This conversation will happen at the next meeting. I'm done talking with you.
I'm going to get up as a member of the public next meeting.
Go right ahead. You're more than likely to do so. Unless it's on the agenda, in which case I would not allow you to do so because we'd be talking about it later. That's neither here nor there. So if there's any
This is not
other
democracy, Council President.
What's that?
This is not democracy. I had the floor and you took it away from me. I had 15 seconds left. I was making a final point.
I'm done. I will take a motion to move into executive session.
Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, move that we move into executive session to discuss the deployment of or strategy regarding security personnel devices, e.g. sting operation, to discuss Measure 2024-124. We will be adjourning from executive session, and we will not be returning to the regular meeting. This is a roll call vote.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Simmons. Mr. Donovan. Mr. Costello. Aye. Mr. Gould.
No.
Mr. Gregory.
Floor.
You do not. Mr. Gregory.
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Mr. Parra, I am a yes. Ms. St. Pierre.
Yes.
Yes. That motion passes 6-1. Please, we are now in executive session. We will not be returning. Thank you.